we don't do that. So I'm wondering if this is like a regional thing. Is what I guess is where I'm trying to get to. Is it like
No, I mean, I'm talking about in general in the United States of America. People use that word towards white people, right? I mean, I've never been called the N word, but I'm aware that people use that word, right? I mean,
well, yeah, that's obviously, but what I'm saying is like where are these like are they just saying it in conversation? Like where is this happening? Like
I can give
I'm
you
not
examples
questioning
if you
that it's not
like.
happening. I'm just wanting, more details because I'm just befuddled that people say that word.
Yeah, like for example, I listen to hip hop sometimes, not too much because I think they have a lot of bad messages for society. But sometimes I listen to it because it has a nice beat or something like that. But sometimes, and hold on, give me. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry about that. I think it cut off or something. But I listen to hip hop sometimes, and there's these group of rappers. You probably heard of them: West Side Gun, Mac Ami. I believe they're from the New York, New Jersey area. Sorry.
Hmm.
And in one of their songs, they said, "I'm selling drugs to Caucasians." Basically, like we're gonna sell it to Caucasians because we don't like them. If you know what I mean. So they've bragged about selling hard drugs to Caucasians, and they have in many songs have referred to them as crackers, with hatred in their voice. You know. So, are they specifically talking about racist white people or just white people in general? What do you think?
Honestly, I've never heard of these rappers before, but as soon as you said New York and you said that they were bragging about selling hard drugs to the white communities out there, they're probably talking about white people in general because I don't know if you know the history of like gang wars in New York or like the like mob history in New York, but the mob, all five families in New York used to um exclusively sell drugs in the black community because they, they, racism essentially. So, and there are documentaries where the capos and the underbosses, the ones that are still living, acknowledge, like, our boss told us we don't want to sell,
No,
or
but
we're not
he
allowed to
wasn't
sell
giving
drugs.
us, but he wasn't giving us a history lesson. He was talking about 2024 or
Well, no, I
2023.
I know that, but I'm saying the
Yeah.
history behind where he lives is probably why he's saying the stuff he's saying because he's probably um it's probably one of those like an eye for an eye type of mentalities that he has.
Would
Like
you say
living in
would you
that
say
area,
that's a
he
hate
knows the
crime?
history. Huh?
Would you say that's a hate crime to
Would I say
purposefully?
selling drugs to a particular demographic just because they're
Yeah.
that demographic is a hate crime? Absolutely.
Yeah, so so if a black person commits a hate crime against white people, that's not racism in your eyes? Specifically because they're white?
No, that when did I say that?
No, I'm asking you, like, do you think that's racism? Like, if a black person commits a hate crime towards a white
If
person
a
because of
black
their
Okay,
skin color?
so there's a gentleman on this app who was attacked by a black man, and the black man said, I'm doing this because you're a white person, right? um so I do think that that is a hate crime. I do think that that um act involves racism. um I think any hate crime, like if you're doing anything malicious or anything uh, derogatory toward, like physically, or that impedes someone's ability to live life comfortably or their pursuit of happiness, if you're impeding my constitutional rights because I'm a particular race, that's a hate crime and that's racism. That's what I'm talking about when I say systems. And a lot of times, the racism that I hear non-black people talk about when they're saying, "Oh, black people are racist," they're talking about like um, interactions in which they feel uncomfortable, not in which anybody is actually impeding anything for impeding their ability to do anything, or um, they're not
But wait a
they're
minute,
not. Go ahead.
you said black people cannot be racist though.
Yeah.
So if a black person committed a hate crime against a white person based on their race, you said that was racism, right?
Yeah, just generally speaking, we're are we speaking specifically about black people and hate crimes, or are we speaking generally about a hate crime? In general, hate crimes involve racism. If we're speaking specifically about black people and racism and hate crimes,
No, but like that, I am generally speaking. I'm saying if anybody commits a hate crime based on race, it's racism. But you're saying black people cannot be racist, so I'm confused.
it sounds like you're confused. I
Unless you don't
thought that
consider
I
black
explained that.
people people. I
What?
mean, the only way, because you said we're generally speaking, right? If you commit a hate crime against a white person, specifically for being white, right? Like we have, when we're generally speaking, we include black people because black people are people, right? So that if a black person does it, it's racist, right?
I'm not understanding what you're asking me. So I
Yeah, because I just gave you an example of a black person committing a hate crime towards a white person just for being white.
that's called
And
beloved. I explained. That's why I'm confused with what you're asking me, because you've already asked me this question and I've already answered it. Now you're asking me in a different way because it sounds like you're just trying to trip me up. But I've already
no,
answered
it's
this
the same
question for you.
question.
I've already
It's the
answered this
same
question
question.
for you.
If a black person commits a hate crime against a white person just for being white, nothing else, is that
That
racism?
involves power. That involves a system of power. That involves a power imbalance. So yeah, racism would be involved in that situation because the white person is at a disadvantage in this situation because the person, whoever was committing the hate crime, more than likely a hate crime is a physical act, right? It's a physical act of aggression, correct? That's what hate crimes are. Like if you're just walking around calling somebody the N word, they're not going to arrest you for a hate crime. If you walk around calling somebody the N word and then you punch them in the face, that's a hate crime, correct?
So then black people can have power in some situations. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in some situations, but generally speaking, the way that y'all like to say, oh, black people can also be racist, um, that's not the case. There's nuance to this conversation, and I don't think um, that when we have these conversations, we talk about the nuance. We're just speaking generally.
Yeah, you see, I don't get that because people will say that black people cannot be racist because they don't have power, but you just gave me an example of a black person having power over a white person. So I'm kind of confused there.
An example? Yeah. What are you confused about? Like I'm confused about what you're confused about. Yes, DK, we're talking in circles because he's asking me the same questions and I'm giving him the same answers.
I mean, honestly, I think it's more genuine if you could just say, black people can be racist, but I'm not racist. Maybe that would make more sense.
I'm sure that would make more sense to you, but that's not how I feel, so that's not what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it sounds like you don't want to call it racism, but it is racism, and I think the reason why is because it's been the story historically that white people are the racist people, right? And you don't really want to be classified in the same category. You don't want to say, oh, I'm racist like those white people who have oppressed us for many years. So you're going to say it's not racism when in fact it is racism and nobody should be racist.
That's not actually true because there are examples all throughout various African countries of black people, African people being racist to the white people who live in that country. That's the difference. In America, black American people cannot be racist in this country. Now, if we go to Africa and if we're in South
Wait,
Africa,
hold on.
for
You said they
example,
cannot be racist,
yeah, I said that like 3 or 4 times in the past 5 minutes.
but you also said I gave you an example of something, and you said that the black person can be racist in that
Yeah,
specific
when the
example.
power structure is imbalanced,
Well,
when there's an imbalance
it's
of
either
power.
it's either they can be racist or they cannot,
No, it's
right?
not. Life is not black and white. There is gray area. And this is the gray area, babes. I know you don't like that because that makes things messy, but it's gray. This is not just black and white, babes.
So does that make sense to you? You say black people cannot be racist, and then I give you an example,
Let's
and
be
you
specific because I just clarified. Black American people
okay.
in America cannot be racist. Outside of this country, in other countries in which we have a different power imbalance or a different power structure, we can absolutely be racist in those environments. In this one, that's not how it works.
But
That's like saying
I gave you an
there's
example, ma'am,
mutual
of New
abuse.
York City. I gave you an example of New York, and you said that black in that situation, black people can be racist in that situation. So that's
Yeah,
black
because we were talking
Americans.
about a hate crime. Was that not what we were talking about? We were talking about a hate crime. You asked me if I believe selling drugs to a particular demographic just because they're that demographic equates to hate crime. That's what you were talking about when we were talking about New York. So I said, yes, that is an example of a power imbalance.
Okay, because I thought you said they couldn't be racist at all.
When did I say that? Like, love, you really have to like listen to what I literally just said.
I am listening
It's
to you.
not black or white. I said it's gray. And I said this particular situation or this particular topic that we're talking about in regards to black American people being racist is nuanced. And that's the gray area.
Okay, I mean, so I'm gonna ask you one more question, right? I have a lot of guest requests, so I'm gonna have to move on, but it's been a good talk so far. But if I told you, you told me that it requires system, right, or a system of power to be racist. So if I told you that the same definition that I'm using, the definition that I go by, has systemic racism in the definition, would you believe my definition or no? Does that make sense?
Ask it in a different way.
Okay, so let me just give you my definition, right?
Well, hold on.
Well,
Let me before you repeat, let me just see if I understood what you were asking. Were you
yeah.
asking me if if in your definition, which I'm assuming you're getting you're using the definition that pops up on the Merriam-Webster, like when you Google it, the Merriam-Webster little box. I'm assuming you're talking
Um,
about that definition.
no, actually, Merriam-Webster has a different definition. I think you would go by the
Isn't that
Merriam-Webster
interesting?
definition.
And that's probably also part of the problem is that there are multiple definitions of the same word, and we're not agreeing
Well,
on the definition of the word.
well, do you know
Is that what
why?
you're asking me, though?
Do you know why Merriam-Webster has that definition in the first place?
Didn't they change it like a couple years ago? After
Yeah,
like 20, wasn't it in like 2020 or 2021 or something like that they changed it?
yeah. I believe a 22-year-old girl, her name is Kennedy Mitchum, sent an email to Merriam-Webster because she didn't like the definition that we always knew, right? So she basically changed the definition to fit her narrative, which is what a lot of black people are doing.
Well, you do know that that language is living and breathing, and it's always changing, right? You do understand that words and definitions of those words change with the times.
To fit people's narratives, yeah, like you know how they're changing the definition of man and woman? Yeah,
I
I can
don't know
agree with
anything
that.
about that.
Unfortunately, I can agree with that. But what I'm trying to explain to you is that the definition that has always existed before that young woman who's probably in a liberal college decided to change it was prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism towards somebody's ethnicity or race, right? It can be on an individual level, community level, or institution level. The institution is the systemic racism that you're talking about. However, even though it can be systemic, it doesn't have to be systemic, which is my point that anybody can be racist.
Okay. I understand your point. I obviously disagree with it, but I do understand what your point is. But I do want to ask you, where do you think the definition of that word came from? The original definition.
Are you saying it's from white people? I'm assuming you're gonna say that.
No, I mean, obviously it is from white people, but I'm just
Yeah.
asking if you're aware that that's where that definition came from, right? So, of course, it would, from my perspective, I don't think that, and as a linguist, that's my job. That's what my degree is in. As a linguist, I recognize that the victors write history. The victors are the ones who set the perspective. So with that, I personally take those definitions with a grain of salt, especially if they're from any time before the 1900s. I take all that shit with a grain of salt because there is a very specific kind of person who was running around the world at that time and a very specific kind of person who was writing those dictionaries at that time. So,
But technically, white people created the concept of race, right?
not even technically. Yeah, you're right.
So, like, even though white people created the concept of race, black people can still use it because if they didn't use it, they wouldn't even call themselves black. You realize that, right?
Sure.
Like, if you didn't use the white concept of race, you wouldn't call yourself black. So even though a white person created it, you could still be racist. You know what I mean? If we're going by the concept of race, you could still be racist. I
Yeah, if we're
mean,
going by the definition that was established by the people who created race and racism, yeah, sure. Of course, everybody can be racist and participate in racism.
so everybody can be racist?
Babes, that was sarcasm. I don't think. Did you not catch it?
Okay. Oh man.
I was being sarcastic.
Yeah, well,
But
um,
I know you have a lot of people. When I joined, there was only like 130 folks in this room. Now you've got
yeah.
almost 500. Congratulations. Continue to have these important conversations, and I hope you have a great day. I'll drop so you can chat with someone else.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you.
You too. Have a good day.
Likewise. Yeah, guys, I feel like I don't know, people are saying I'm slow, but when she said that black people cannot be racist, and then later on in the conversation said that in a certain situation that black person was racist, that's what threw me off. Like I'm just trying to understand her, right? It sounded like contradiction. And this kind of reminds me of the same conversation when you have the conversation on what is a man, what is a woman, and they run you around in circles. That's what I felt here. That's what this conversation was giving off. But let me just bring somebody else up, okay? Let's see. Let me bring up Matt. What's up, Matt? How you doing, man?
What's going on?
What's good, bro?
Yeah, I was looking at your live and I was, trying to see what you were meaning when you saying black people can be racist. I don't understand how we can. Well, not in America anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm just going by the definition, and the definition does say that any prejudice, antagonism, or discrimination towards somebody's ethnicity or race is racism. So if you discriminate a white person just for being white, I would consider that racism, for example.
I would say prejudice, but not racist.
Well, yeah, but like I said, prejudice towards somebody's race would be classified as racism, right? Uh, I mean,
So I think that's where we disagree at because even though I can't race or by decisions that I make, like I can't say, well, hey, I don't like this white person, so I'm gonna make sure he can't move, his family can't move into this particular neighborhood or have this particular job, or you know what I mean? Like I can't control that.
are you talking about like discrimination right now? Is that what you're talking about?
Right.
You're saying that black people can't do that?
Not in America, no. Maybe like somewhere like in Africa or something like that where we have whole government power and we can be bought, and there's so much like corruption, but no, not over here, no. No, no, no. Oh, that's my
So no, you're good, man. So like if a black person owned a business, right? And they decided not to hire white people, they say we're not going to hire any white people. Do you think is that systemic racism?
no.
No. So what would, if a white person did it, would that be systemic racism?
One particular instance, no. But we're talking about like on a global scale, yes. There's not just like, okay, it's just one person that didn't get a house because of what color they are. It's a whole race of people that are like, it's been proven, especially like more recently with didn't give certain black people particular loans for homes because they were black, even though they were just qualified as their white counterparts.
Yeah, you're talking about the Wells Fargo lawsuit, right?
No, Navy Federal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying, right? Like if it was the other way around and they decided not to accept white people's loans, would that be systemic racism?
If we had that power, then yeah, it would. If we had that particular power, but we don't. I'm not talking about an isolated incident. I'm talking about on a nationwide scale. You're talking about one black business discriminating against a particular white person and gives a black person another job. That's not racist. That's discrimination, but that's not racism because that's not controlling the whole race of people. Now, if this was like a Walmart and a black person owned Walmart and all the Walmarts didn't hire white people, then yeah, that would be racist.
But it's definitely possible for a black person to own Walmart. Maybe it hasn't happened, but it's possible, right?
Not all of them. That's what I'm saying. Until that happens, like that isn't the norm. The black people, we don't own like a chain of Walmarts. Like Sam Walton was the owner, and he passed it down to his children. So it's not like black people own the whole franchise of Walmarts.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying, but okay, so I just want to get a better understanding of where you're coming from, right? So like when you say white people have the power, right? Can you give me an example of somebody who is in power where a black person cannot be in the same position of power? You see what I'm saying or no? Name a white person that has a position of power that a black person cannot have in America.
Name a position of power that a white person has that a black person cannot get?
Yeah. Basically, a position of power that a white person has that a black person cannot have.
Well, that's okay. I get where you're going with it, but that's not just the only thing that's prohibiting it from happening. It's not because we can't get the position. It's because of other people who have the position. If that makes sense. Like I can prevent you from getting this position, even though I'm qualified to get it.
But like, can you give me an example of that position?
I mean, it's plenty of okay, so the Supreme Court, like the Supreme Court judges, like there are what, 2 black people now? The Clarence, he's still a Supreme Court judge. Yeah, Clarence Thomas, he's still a Supreme Court judge. Then you got Ketanji. So that's 2.
Yeah.
Right, but they don't make up the whole of the Supreme Court. Mostly they're white women and men, correct? So even though they are in the room, they are on the same level. They don't control. They're not the majority of it, so they could still be outnumbered.
But like well, first of all, like black people are like about 13-14% of the population, right? So there's always going to be there's never going to be equal representation, right? Because of that. But what I'm trying to understand is that when people say black people cannot be racist because they don't have these positions of power or whatever, I don't understand that, because we had a black man running the country for 8 years. So that is why I'm asking you, like, to give me an example.
That's okay. The president is just the face of America. He doesn't really run America. Like, the corporate banks run America. Like, that's a fact. And the lobbyists. So that's the president's just the face. He's not really in control.
Right, but I mean, that's what I don't get. Like, black people have there's a lot of black people in positions of power. So when people say that black people cannot be racist because they don't have power, I don't understand that. You're telling me Obama didn't have any power?
No, they fought him at every end. Anything he tried to do. Granted, he did have the majority for the first few years, but then after that, the Republicans took over. But that's not saying like he had the complete power overall. He could just do anything he wanted. That wasn't the case.
But I mean, everybody goes against the president. I mean, look what's happening to Trump. Trump is as white as can be.
Yeah, and he almost set a record, signed the most executive orders as soon as he got into office.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like trying to understand why people say that black people don't have power. I mean, I think there's a lot of black people. I didn't say we don't have
power. I say we don't have enough power to change an entire race. Like, I can't make a decision that would change your family and your family's generation's outcome on what happens.
Are you saying it's never happened, or you can never do that?
I didn't say it could never happen. I'm saying currently, right now, and before, up until this point, no, we don't.
But if it can happen, that means that black people can be racist.
Of course, right? Yeah. If we had it to where, okay, I can make a decision right now and I can affect 7 generations of white families or even more, then yeah, you could call me racist, yes. But until that happens, no, we can only be prejudiced, bigots, prejudice, stereotypical, all that, but not racist.
Right, because I understand what you're talking about when we're talking about systemic racism, but I think racism can also be on a individual level.
And that's why I think we disagree, because I think you're changing the definition of the word to fit your narrative. Because if you change that and say it's not, then you're completely false. It's completely wrong, because I don't think it could be on an individual single level. That's just prejudice.
Because like let's say I think this is true. I don't think it's racist to say this, but I think that if I went to, let's say I lived in a all black neighborhood, I would get a lot of shit for being white. Would you say so or no? Or,
yeah, correct.
Yeah, right. They'd probably call me all kinds of cracker. They'd probably beat me up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's the same thing, vice versa too. I think if you were the only black person in a community, people would probably treat you different, maybe, right? And so what I'm trying to get at is, if, let's say I'm not a racist white man, I've never done anything racist, I'm just living my life, right?
Right.
Or maybe you could even say I'm a liberal, and I'm always fighting for human rights, this and that, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm walking down the street and a black guy attacks me for being white. He robs me or whatever, calls me a cracker, attacks me because I'm white, right? Mm-hmm. How is that not racism just because it doesn't require a system? That is literally hating somebody, being negative towards somebody and attacking them just because of their skin color. How is that not racism? That's what I do not get.
Because it's just one isolated incident. It's not affecting an entire race. It's just one person it's affecting. That's why I say I think our definitions aren't your definition is different from mine when you say it could be at an individual level. That's why I disagree. I don't think it could be at an individual level. That's just prejudice. People say prejudice is racism. No, it's not.
But if you're saying that it's not on a that it cannot be racist if it's on an individual level, then why is a white person saying the N-word to a black person racist? That's on an individual level. When a white person calls
I don't call
you,
that racist. I don't.
look, if
A white person calling me the N word is not racist. It's the connotation behind it that I think is more bigoted. But I don't think that's not racist. That's just a ignorant person.
because like maybe you don't, but I would say most black people would say it's racist if a white person is calling a black person the N-word. So that is on an individual level. If somebody calls you the N-word, Matt, that doesn't make you lose your job. That doesn't put you in prison. That doesn't do anything to you, but maybe hurt your feelings.
Right.
So I would say it's racism if a white person is calling you a derogatory word with that kind of historical context. I would say that's racist.
No, but that would be a key indicator that they might be racist. But the term of them calling me the N word doesn't make them racist. But that might be a key indicator that hey, they might be racist.
But Matt, I'm pretty sure most people would say that's racist. Like, I don't want to put words in your mouth or assume anything, but I feel like you're saying it's not racism because you know that it would prove my point correct. Because it is racism on an individual level.
And if you change the definition to where it's not an individual level, that would prove me correct. That's why I said that's where we disagree at. But I get what you're saying.
Well,
if you say it on
I'm
the
not
individual level,
saying.
then yeah, you're absolutely correct. That would be racist. If it's on the individual level too as well, then yes. But that's where we disagree at.
Well, I'm not saying that systemic racism doesn't exist or has never existed. I'm just saying that that's one specific type of racism. So, like, what you're saying about systemic racism is correct. However, there's other forms of racism, like individual, for example. Or there's also like racism that you can have towards your own people, like when people hate their own race and things of that nature. Like there's different types of racism out there. I don't think it only requires a system of power.
Yeah, that's why I think we disagree at.
All right. Well,
Yeah, but I enjoy your conversation though. I know a lot of people probably agree with you, but I stand on that, So we just agree to disagree, I guess. But thank you for having me on though.
yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming up here. It was a good conversation.
No problem.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna do a poll real quick, before we bring up the next guest. Just give me 1 second, guys. All right, we're going to start this poll, guys. If you want me to continue talking about this, vote for the option that says racism. If you guys want me to move on to the next topic, you can choose Trump and Biden. I will give you guys the opportunity to pick the topic. A lot of people say that I talk about this too much, even though clearly I do have to talk about this because it's still a topic that we're having today. All you have to do is scroll through TikTok Live and you will see a lot of people being racist towards white people. So in order for that to stop, in order for me to make some kind of difference, I have to have this conversation. And I'm doing it in good faith. I'm doing it with good intentions. I'm not here to bash on any community. I am not here to fight or anything like that. I am just here to have a conversation. And I know I am not black, but that is why I bring up black people, because they should, I want their opinion. I don't want a bunch of white people in this panel. Like, you know what I mean? I'm here to have a conversation with people on the other side or people with a different experience. You know what I mean? But yes, there's a poll. If you guys want to keep talking about this, vote for that. If you want to talk about Trump and Biden, then vote for that. Okay? So far, racism is still at 60%. Okay, if racism reaches 75% or higher, guys, I'm gonna keep talking about that. Okay. So go ahead and vote. We're almost at 70% for racism. Because you guys, a lot of people say that I'm obsessed with this topic, but it seems like you guys want me to talk about this. So I'm leaving it up to you guys. Okay. So that you can see I'm not just obsessed. This is a conversation that the people want. Okay. So we successfully reached 75% on racism. So we're gonna keep talking about that. We're gonna bring up a few more guests. Let's bring up Dark Truth. I sounds familiar. Dark Truth.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, man?
So, I'm going to disagree with you because I don't have a lot of time, right? But I'm going to disagree with you because the system, right, has never benefited Black people, right? The system always has had hold Black people down. So therefore, I don't think Black people can be racist, right? You know, from my experience of 44 years, right? I've never seen anything benefit Black people. Now, I think Black people have, you know, there's a lot of bridges that have been built far systemically for things to get better. But I will say this, right? You know, as far as a whole, as the system, Black people, you know, we could be bigoted, right? We could be prejudiced, right? But we cannot be racist. And that's, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Sure, man. I don't know if you, I want to say something real quick though. I don't know if you recognize me, but we've had interactions before. And let me tell you something, man. The panels that you have on your live are extremely toxic. And I understand, you know, you're on the side of all white people are bad, yada, yada, yada. But if you don't have conversations, bro, you're not going to get anywhere with that rhetoric.
Okay, so not one time have I ever said that all white people are bad, right? Not one time I've ever said that. I said you have some nasty, ugly people out there, right? Topics I want people to understand is that because you might think it's ugly, but it's to let people know, look, there's a system that is so ugly, right? And you have people that will come on my panel and drop the N-bomb, right? Constantly. So I see the hatred from one side, but then I have mutuals that look like you, right? And guess what? We have a perfectly calm conversation about these topics of racism, right? So
I disagree, man. You do a lot of muting. You mute people, you kick people, you mute them while you're talking trash about them. You constantly talk bad about so-called white tea people. The reason why you say white tea is because you're saying bad things about white people and you don't want to get banned. And then you wonder why people come up here acting hateful towards you. It's because you're full of hate. You're full of negativity, and that is all you push on your lives. And look, you're in my life right now, right? I'm letting you talk. I'm being calm, and I disagree with you. That is the way to have an effective conversation. And we've had conversations before, so don't deny what I'm saying. You guys, you bring up people on your panel. There's other people like Live to Be Great, Ashley Buenos Diaz. There's a lady that they call Auntie. There's so many people on your side of the aisle on TikTok that are so hateful towards white tea people, and they make money doing that, and then they want to act like victims. No, you guys have negativity and hate in your heart, and you guys got to get rid of that, man. I have nothing against you, bro. I have nothing against you, and I'm not racist, so your skin color does not matter to me, but the content of your character does matter to me, bro. And you guys need to fix that because you guys are the toxic part of TikTok.
Okay, so you made a statement, right? And that's the problem when you say you don't see color, right? When you don't see an individual, that's where we get pissed off at, right? You have to be able to see a person. When I look at you, I see white. When I see another Black person, I see Black. I see who they are. The problem is you can't ignore, right? And then say, well, I don't see an individual. That's where I don't even Live to Be Great and Auntie. Yes, I'm friends with them. I know who you're talking about, but I don't go to their panels. I most of the time I don't even socialize with them. But like I said, I want you to understand is that you're painting the wrong picture. And I do let people talk on my panel. Now, if people are being ugly and nasty and start talking over people, yes, there's going to be consequences to your actions. But I also want you to understand this. I'm not here to argue with you. But what I'm here to have you to understand, you said something, right, that I think should be addressed. Because if you're going to address the issues of racism, right, then you're also going to be able to address this, say, hey, I do see you, because no person is not colorblind, right? Would you agree?
No, yeah, I do know that you're black, especially since I've seen your videos on my For You page and stuff. But what I'm saying is that I don't hate you. I'm not gonna go against you because you're black. And that is what you do. You go against people because of their skin color.
No,
And don't
I
deny it, bro. Don't
I
deny it,
go
because
against
when
people.
I've gone, look,
Okay.
man, when I've entered your lives, I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking about some of the people on your panel as well. They will talk shit before I even say anything because they see that I'm white. They see that my name says the right way, and they come up with these generalizations of white people. And then you guys wonder why white people are so salty towards you when they join. And that's because you guys are being very toxic and negative to the white community, to the white people in general.
Okay.
And you guys
So
know it.
it's a two-way street, man. You got to understand this, right? There are some toxic people on TikTok, right? And I understand, like, but the people that I have, right? It's this is the biggest thing, and I think within my community, right, is that when black women, they'll say, "Oh, the angry black woman," like, whoa, like that's when they get upset, or when you have, people constantly coming on there and trying to tokenize themselves, right, on a all black platform, right. And then just the other day, I had someone tell me, right, about an experience of black people. Those are the things we talk about, right? When you can't tell us about our experiences, right? Just like I can't tell you like about your experience, about the prejudice, about the things that we have faced, right? But then I bet you'll be the first person or any other white tea person that would say, get over your past. We can't get over our past. You know why we can't get over those things? Because those things continue to come back and haunt us, bite us, right? And like I said, I'm not here to argue or dispute or anything. I want you to understand is that if I have to address a situation, like right now, I'm addressing a situation, is that I want people to understand I don't hate anyone. Okay. I hate racism. I hate bigotry. I would tell a black person to his face, bro, you're being nasty and ugly and you're being prejudiced towards another person. And I don't accept that. But I also want people to understand is that it's hard out there for minority communities, right? Would you agree?
Of course. And look, man, I'm not trying to stop you from, spreading the message that you want to spread. I'm just saying that not all white people are as evil as you guys may think they are. And you have to stop putting them in that box, man. There's some white people that kiss black people's ass, bro. They will bow down to you and beg for your forgiveness and say, please, I'm not a racist. I'm not a racist. And you guys treat them the same as a racist white man. Why do you guys do that, bro? That is literally racism. That is the point I'm trying to prove right now. You guys got to stop putting all white people into the same box, because let me tell you, man, that is not going to make white people like you. Okay? That is not, it does not progress society at all doing that. Oh, white people hate us, so we're going to hate them back.
No,
Not all white people are like that,
I
bro.
never said. Look, I never said. See, people misinterpret what I say. Now, I said, look, there are some white people out there that I think they're evil and nasty. But I also think that there's some white tea people out there, look, that are not bad at all. And hey, you know what? You could come kick it at my table. But I will tell you right now, it's like the way it is on TikTok. You have a whole toxic side, right? So, I think when we're having these conversations, we have to understand is that when you come into a space, especially talking about racism, right? It's a very sensitive topic, and I'm sure you agree with that, right? But I also want people to understand is that I don't think all white people are bad. Do I think white people are inherently racist? Yes, I do. But do I think all white people go around spewing hatred and racism? No, I don't. And like I said, I that's why I want people to know, because not one time came out of my mouth have and I will keep saying it, have I ever said that all white people were bad.
Well, I'm not saying that you said that, but the fact that you guys have maybe 5 or 6 black people in your panel, you let up one white person at a time and you grill each white person one at a time and insult them and kick them and ridicule them and call them names, and you guys don't even get your TikTok suspended. That is a problem. You
Well,
guys are pushing
I
hatred
have
into the
my
country.
TikTok suspended talking about racial topics, but I will say this. You know what? If you ever see me live, you're more than welcome to come on my panel. And if you want to express your side, I'm okay with that. And I'm telling anybody from the other side. But don't start coming up on the panel, start tokenizing yourself and say I have black friends too. I'm like, and then there's some pushback on that. Like because we don't I believe tokenizing people, we should never do that, right? I think it's just messed up. Like, I don't think you would, people would say, well, I got a black girlfriend. Like, wait, what? You know what I'm saying? So I really think that addressing those issues are important to people to understand. Look, I don't want racism to continue to be in our country, but we know it exists, right? And then one side pushes it out, and then constantly we see our men, right, getting our black men, our black women, even black women from the trans community, right? We see this, right? Just not too long ago. I mean, I'm sure you're pretty aware of it, right? Where the guy from the Air Force, right? He had his pew pew down, right? And what did the police officer do? He took him out. That's the things we talk about, right? That we get angry and we want people to know, like, look, there are things what we see in our community, and then or I'll use this, and I want people to understand. I'm gonna land with this, and I want to see what your final thoughts are. When Mr. Floyd got unalive, right? What did they do? And that's the anger and the outrage we feel, is that when we say, look, our men are getting unalived, our women and from our community, they're getting unalived. And when we address those issues, people get angry at us and like, wait a minute, we're telling you from our side and our spectrum, right, that we are hurt. We still haven't gotten any form of retribution for our communities. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we want our systems to be repaired. But
Yeah, and I understand that, man. But here's the thing, like you should be mad at those white people who commit those evil acts. You shouldn't be mad at white people in general, because the white racist people, they generalize black people. And so if you're generalizing white people, then congratulations, you've become a racist white man as well. You're the same kind of person. At the end of the day, racism is evil. And if you're doing the same thing back to white people, I don't care what excuse you have, you're evil. And that's what you guys do, bro.
no, I
And
don't. I want you to stop. See, the thing about it, you're saying you guys and not one time. Because like I said, I don't even talk about racial topics really much on my platform anymore. And I try to, when I tell people, I says, look, we're not going to talk about racism or any type of isms. You know why? Because those are very sensitive topics. We stay on topic, right? Because I know how it can affect people, right? Like right now we're having this topic and it's very sensitive. But like I said, and I'm not telling people to stop talking about racism, but for me, I think I understand from my side and you understand from your side. But we got to come to a decision, is that, when we are having these topics, right, we got to understand, we got to be able to hear the other side and be able to sympathize with them, right? Because I think that's a big difference to understand and actually be compassionate and understanding, right? I mean, would you agree with that?
yeah, and that's why I let people speak on my platform, because honestly, I'm so tired of getting silenced on other people's platform. And look, man, I don't care. Like, if you guys want to be racist or insult me, I don't care. But I think you guys are influencers, right? Like, you guys are influencing many people who watch your lives. And I feel like it's just spreading division and hate. And when I say you guys, I'm not talking about black people. I'm talking about specifically the people who have lives like you, who are hateful towards white people. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so what I would love to do, okay, if you want, I would love for you to come on my platform, and I would love for you to, and I won't allow anyone to be, if they are disrespectful, I will drop them. Just to be fair, mods, friendlies, mutuals, I will drop them, and you can have this conversation, right, from your side of the spectrum. But if someone addresses something and say, well, you said this here, I think we need to address that issue, right? And then try to find a solution, right? Because you say you want to find a solution. The solution starts right now by having this conversation, by you understanding, like I said, I don't think all white people are bad. I'm gonna keep saying that. I don't think all white people are bad. But I'm also gonna say this is that when we have that conversation, things are gonna be said. But I think it opens a door for us to like, okay, start building bridges and start, understanding where you come from. And then start understanding the community that I'm from. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I have trust issues, and I don't think you guys would give me a
Oh
equal
no, I will.
chance.
I will.
Um,
There's a few of my friends and down there, and they'll tell you I'm pretty fair,
is D
especially
Diva
when
your
it,
friend?
huh?
Is D Diva your friend? Do you recognize that
I
name?
think she follows me, and if I don't, she has enough followers, but she'll tell you I'm pretty fair, and I allow people to talk on my platform, and if people start over talking, I will mute them, or my mods will mute them, and I'll make specific directions. Say, look, we're going to have this conversation. We're going to listen to Mr. Right Wing. And if he says anything, let him finish. Because then I will throw it on Showtime and let you talk. And I don't care how mad they get. Because I want the people to hear your side, but I also want you to hear our side, our community. Because Live to Be Great and all of them, they have their own way of handling it. And look, I understand, their passion and where they're at. But me, I don't really go into their spaces, right? And the aunties, I don't really go into their spaces, right? Also comes to my spaces. He can tell you. Like I said, I mean, I just want you to understand is that I try to keep it fair for everybody. I mean, also, would you agree with that? When you come to my platform, don't I keep it pretty fair for everybody?
Well, Osa, I mean, do you think they're fair to white people? I think that's the question we need to ask.
I'm sorry. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, because
Sure.
also can vouch for me. I'm pretty fair when and allowing people to talk on my platform.
Yeah, man, because like I have an opinion that is very different from yours, and I still bring up people who are on the very opposite side, far left progressive people. And I mean, sure they have very different opinions than me, but what's the point of me muting them? If I think that I'm right and they're wrong, I'm gonna prove that, right?
Yeah, give me one
So
second. I'm listening.
yeah, so I think when people try to silence other people, it's because you don't have an argument. It's because you're so upset that somebody's proving you wrong, and your only scapegoat is to run away rather than to actually have a conversation. Rather than to actually have a debate, you'd rather go, "Oh, just mute that guy and kick him out of here. He's making us look bad." And I think that's very embarrassing. And I think the only fan base you have are other racist black people. And that's the truth. And that is why I have my platform, because I let people talk. It's not even about me, right? It's just about having a conversation. That's all it's about. And it's not even just, lives about racism. It's also lives about politics, about Trump and Biden, about gender ideology. You name the topic, and there's a group of people out there who just silence people. And, you guys know how it is.
No, like I understand what you're saying, and I've seen that where I went into spaces and I dealing with I don't speak on the trans or LGBT community because I'm not part of that community. But when I go in there, right, I can't speak for their community. I can't do that because I'm not part of that community. And I think where people
But you're also not a part of the white community, bro.
right, but I'm saying that's the whole thing. And when we go into people's spaces, we have to be able to understand. We have to fill the room, understand how people feel, right? Because if you see a room full of, angry people, right? Like, well, I'm not going to go. I've seen it. I've actually had to listen into spaces sometime and like, wait a minute, I am not going in that space because I've seen it. Even though it's a little off topic, Trump supporters, Biden, I've seen it. And I have to tell myself, I'm not walking into that space because I already know what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Can
Well,
y'all hear me?
before Osa speaks, I just want to say, man, you are being respectful right now, Dark Truth.
Mhm.
But I've had different experiences with you in the past. But Osa, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just on the elevator. I was just getting to the office now. I'm sorry about that. I mean, like I said, I mean, I know Dark Truth, so I've had pretty decent conversations with him. I've been on his panels before. I would just say it's usually his friendlies that obviously have the issue with, I guess, my opposing views, I would say. So sometimes a lot of the conversations can get heated. That's why I've also sort of taken a page out of your book too, as well, and hosted my own lives, because it's very encouraging when you try to be respectful and share your ideas and views, only to get pushed down in these 7v1 or 8v1 echo chambers. So it gets really frustrating because you feel like, the conversation is not being productive and you're not really going anywhere. So, I really appreciate you having and hosting this platform so that way people can have respectful dialogue and conversations. So I'm thankful for your platform.
Well, Elsa, when people are on my panel, don't I try to be fair and try to listen to people? No, am I pretty fair with that?
You try to, but it's just sometimes, like I said, again, it gets to one of those things where it's not you, but it'd be a lot of times the friendlies that have the issue. And again, things can get heated really quick. You know that.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, like I
Not
said,
nec- yeah.
what I was
I'm
saying
sorry.
earlier, because I do got to run, but I want to say this. This is a very sensitive topic, right? When you're talking about race issues, right? Because some people, they take it a certain way. Some people get triggered a certain way. And like I said, I want to go back to it, right? There was this whole thing going on TikTok where all people were saying that I said all white people are racist. I never said all white people are racist. I said white people do have some things they need to work on. I think white people are inherently racist. I think that, those are some of the things inside of them, right?